I'm Bob Burke and welcome to Mechanic at Large. Today we're shooting from Ag Expo in Lethbridge. It's a big agricultural show that's held here every year, and we got people around behind us and out in the audience. We're going to have some fun. The show we're going to do today is about recoil starters, and I get asked about that more often than anything else. I've got one here. They're the same on lawnmowers, rototillers, little pumps you've got around the farm, but they're actually very easy to fix. We've got two guests with us today that were down at Ag Expo. They're going to help us out in this show, and they're going to fix these starters with us. First of all, we've got Don Wood. Now, Don is the municipal administrator from the town of Grantham. Don, you've got some of these machines, I think.
Yes, quite a few.
Quite a few. Did they give you some trouble?
I don't know. I don't usually fix them.
All right, we're going to show Don how to do it. We've got Bruce Johnson with us, and Bruce is a farmer from north of Fort McLeod. Bruce, you've got some of these, no doubt.
Yes, I do, Bob, but I never had to repair any of them.
Well, if you have to, you're going to know how to do it after today's show. And if you'll join us, you'll know how to. We'll be back after this message. Hi, welcome back. You guys ready to get started on recoil starters? All right, let's do it. I've got one right down here. This is off a little pump. Now you can see the handle is still on the thing, but we're going to give it failure. Don's got one here that's failed already, and Bruce, you need failure too. Let's cut these handles right off, all right? We're going to pull that out. We're going to simulate what happens to you at home. We're going to cut that off and let it go. That's a common occurrence on lawnmowers and so on. All right, we've got our handles off. Our starter's all wrecked. We're going to show you how to fix them. First, we're going to draw a picture. We got a board down here. Don, can you hold that for me like that? We're going to draw you a little bit of picture of what's inside this housing, and then we'll go in and show you. We got a recoil starter housing that looks roughly like that. That's a common thing. You've all seen that. And right out here, we've got a rope and a little handle. We'll draw it like that. Now inside of that, that rope runs inside here and around and around and around a little plastic spool. Okay, that rope's all coiled up. And when you pull that rope out, of course, you turn your engine over. Inside that plastic spool, there's this coil spring. We'll show you one of them in a minute. And that coil spring is wound around inside here in the same direction as the rope, and it's anchored onto that spool. When you pull the rope out, the spring gets more and more tension on it. When you let go of the rope, the spring pulls it back in. Now, there's one thing I just want to draw for you here. I don't know if we'll see it in these starters. We always do this show realistically and live, and we don't know what's inside these because we haven't looked. But sometimes you'll find the end of this coil inside will get a reverse bend on it like that. And if you do that, your spring is no good and you'll have to throw it away. There's one other thing I want to mention right now. The spring anchors into this housing here, and it anchors into the spool inside. And the end of this flat leaf spring is shaped like this. Are you shaking, Don?
Yeah.
The end of that leaf spring is shaped like that, and it's this little notch here that holds it in the housing and holds it in the spool. Let's go and we'll show you one of those for real. Let's get rid of this. We'll throw it over there. Bruce, you've got a spring there in that box. Just pass me that, and I'll show you what these look like. This is the way these springs come. All right, they're all wound up, and they're in a little cage to hold them in. This is a Briggs & Stratton original equipment spring. This one over here is a jobber spring, but they're both identical, do about the same job. This spring is about 10 feet long. I took one apart and measured it, and we're going to get some springs loose here today, and you may get a look at how long they are because they got a tendency to fly around. Well, let's get started, guys. We've all got bad starters here. Let's turn them over this way, and what we got to do is take out that little plastic spool. Now, this little spool in here is held in by a couple of retainers, and I'm just going to point them out to you here. If we can get a look, there's a little retainer right there, and a little retainer up here. What we're going to do is just bend those up, all right? Let's take a screwdriver, stick it in from the side, like that, and get it underneath that little tab, and just bend it up. Okay?
Oh, God, I got
You might have to, yeah, you can do it. Just bend that up like that, bending that open. And we'll bend this one open. I gotta hold this steady here so you can get a look at it. We don't want to injure anybody here. If you can get those bent up like that. All right, and I'm just going to set that back down for a second. Or maybe while these guys are doing it, I'll show you one other thing. If we can get a look there, you'll see that there's two tabs here and two tabs here. And the reason you have that is Briggs & Stratton puts on an extra tab. You can bend these tabs about 4 times, and after that, they'll break off. So they give you an extra tab, and when one breaks off, you can use the next one. All right? Let's give these guys a hand. Are you getting those? Here,
Yeah,
Don.
slowly.
Here, I'll give you a hand. Now,
Oh,
this
thank you.
is the toughest part of the whole job, you know.
Good.
They're getting pretty greasy here, but
Yes,
we'll get
I'm
this.
getting dirty
There.
here. Oh, thanks.
We got that bent up. We got that one bent up. Bruce, are you ready?
Yeah, I got it.
Now here's how we're going to see it. Take a look at this spring. Take that recoil starter and just go like this. Right on. There's the spring. Now this is the most common thing that I see in my shop is people walking into me with a mess like this and saying, Bob, can you put my recoil starter back together? And if you watch closely from now on, you'll know how to do this when we're done. Let's set that down for a minute and just look at that starter housing. There's nothing fancy in here. On some of the bigger engines, you'll find that there's a little spring that sits in the middle, right in here. There's a little spring to hold that little pulley ahead. But these are just basic, simple little engines. But you can see how dry and rusty this is, and that's going to bind every time that rope pulls out. Okay, let's set that part aside and get a hold of this spring.
Oh, it's greased.
All right,
Okay.
let's take the rope off that.
This
You guys got that? This is dirty, isn't it?
Yes.
This is fun, Don, so you can get greasy. Oh, we got a big crowd here today. They're just milling around. All right, take that rope, just pull it out of that spool, and we'll toss it aside. We don't need it anymore. Now, I'm going to point out one thing if we can get a close-up look at this on this little spool. Remember I mentioned to you that there's a little place where that spring fits in, and that's right down there. Can you see that? You can get a close-up shot of that. There's a little slot right in there, and that's where the end of that spring fits, and then it wraps around and around and around and around here and returns that spring. Okay? You guys got them apart?
Yeah.
All right. Now, this spring is in good enough condition. You can see there's no reverse bend in it. How about you guys? The springs look all right?
Yes.
Okay, another
Yeah,
common
mine's
thing
okay.
to look for is that little tab I mentioned to you in the end can be broken right off sometimes. Sometimes it'll break off and then you got to replace the spring. Now, this spring is very dry, and what I'm going to do is lubricate this thing before we rewind it. And I'll show you how to do that. Brucey, you got some oil down there? Don's is really dirty. Now, one this dirty, we should clean up, and the easiest way to clean these things is just to spray them with a light oil and then wipe them with a rag. So let's just lay this down here. We're going to spray this all over. Come on, just lay her down here. We'll spray yours too.
Oh, thank you. You can have that one.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one to handle. I tell you, it's a good thing we got a woman's touch here on this. Bruce, just spray that one down. Now, what we got to do is we want to clean this spring off. Come on, Don. Now, you're in here for the distance, so you just take a rag, all right, and just start wiping that spring. You just wipe it like that. Pull it through the rag. Like I say, this thing is just under 10 feet long. Be careful it doesn't come around catching the eye. Sometimes we'll do that. This is just a little dangerous, but not too bad.
I need my goggles.
Safety goggles, yeah, we should have safety goggles maybe, but just be careful with these things. Folks, and there we go. Okay, we've got that all cleaned and dried off. Let's shoot a little more light oil on it. This is just going to give us lubrication when we put it back together.
Oops, sorry, Bruce.
All right. Now, get a hold of it in your right hand, Don, like this. Now, Bruce, and hold that little tail inside. Now, what we got to do is just pull like this and hold, all right? We'll get another wrap on it each time we pull. And what we've got to do is wind this up down to about 3 or 4 inches. So let's just pull it and hold it and pull it and hold it. It keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, these Briggs & Stratton springs are fairly easy to handle. If you've got Kawasaki engines or Tecumseh engines, you'll find these are very, very strong springs. But this is the way to do it. Just keep pulling and holding. And when we got it down to about that size, you can stop, okay? You get down to about that size, we can stop. And the easiest way to hang on to this now is to grab it with a pair of pliers. I give you guys pliers.
Is this going to be enough?
Just get a hold of it like that. Yeah, get it about that size. Because what we've got to do is get it back in the little housing we just got it out of. Yeah, down a little more, Don. A little bit smaller if you can. Okay, and get it down to about that size. And then hang on to it tight, because this is where it can get away on you. All right, let's take our housing. That housing is pretty dirty. I should have cleaned that out, you know, but this is television and we've got time limits. What I'm going to do is just put that little spring down into that housing, but I want to engage that little tang that I talked to you about in a slot. Now, I'll show you the slot in this housing. It's right there. If we can get a close-up of that. What I'm going to do from the inside is I'm going to put this little notched piece through and pull it tight, and that will hold the end of that spring. All right? Let's try it. Well, say these get a little tiring to hang on to, but we'll get it. Okay, now we're going to put it down inside that housing. I'm going to try and hold it so you can see it. I'm going to put that end down right in there and twist that around and set that spring. And this is where you got to get your thumbs in from the outside, all right? Get your thumbs in from the outside and hold it. And now let that spring expand. And there, that spring is back in place. All right? Now make sure at this point that you've got that thing securely notched right out there. There, the little yellow piece is the end of that spring. So we've got it notched in place and we're ready to put our spool back in. Now at this time, give it one more shot of oil, all right? Pass me down that oil if you please. Don, Bruce, thank you. Give it one more shot of oil like this. Give it one more shot of oil, soak it good in there.
Let's go.
And our spring is back in place. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'll help these guys catch up, and then we'll put that plastic spool in place and rewind the rope. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, I helped Don and Bruce get caught up, right, Bruce?
Right.
One thing I should mention right here, you got to be careful you don't put this spring in backwards. I saw somebody do this not more than 2 minutes ago. There's one way this spring has got to go, Bruce.
Poor instruction.
Got to remember this. When you pull a handle, think about it. You want that spring to get smaller and smaller, right? Just think about it. If you think about the direction your rope runs when you pull that handle, you'll know which way to put that spring in, because you can put it in backwards, and then it's going to want to push your rope out. Okay, here comes the tricky part of the job. You guys ready?
Right.
Yeah.
This little spool has got a little notch in it that takes that little part of the spring that's notched again. Now this is a kind of a difficult part of a job, and what we have to do is hold that spring in place, take one end of it out, and put it onto this spool, and then put the spool back down into that housing without letting that spring come loose on us.
Sounds like fun.
I'll try and show you this. I'm going to roll up my sleeves here. I'll try and show you this so you can all see it at home. But here's what we got to do. We've got to put our thumb in the side of that little housing, and we're going to release about 6 inches of that spring. All right? I've got about 6 inches of that spring released. See that? And that's the piece that we have to put that spool on. And then we have to put the spool down onto our thumb gently and hold the spring in place. Just watch. I'm going to try and do this one-handed so you can all see it. There's my little notch, and I've got to get that little piece of the spring in there. So I'm going to, here, I'll do it like this, and then I'll turn it over so you can see it. There, all right? There's the spring in the spool, and I've got to turn that over like that. All right, now, this is difficult for me to do and you to see at the same time, but I've got to turn that right over like that, put a little tension on it, and put it down into that housing. And there it is, okay? That might take you 2 or 3 tries, but that's worth it because that's the critical part of the whole job, all right? If you put a little tension on that at the same time that you do it, you'll make the spring a little smaller and it'll snap down into place. Now it's time to bend those tangs back down, all right? And I'm gonna bend those tangs down on this, and then the thing is safe, we can't get any more trouble with it. To bend those down, let's just take a screwdriver. I'm gonna bend those down, and then I'll give these guys a hand. You can reach in through the side here and bend those over. There, get them started like that, and then just push them straight down from here. Right. See that? You just bent that tang down. Now you don't want to force these down too far because this spool has to be able to turn. Let's bend that one in.
Okay,
I'm going to set this down flat and push that down again.
you got yours?
No.
Like that. All right. We've got 2 tangs bent down. But remember, don't put them too tight because the spool has to be able to move. You guys having any luck here?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Leave that for now. Or here, let me have that one, Don.
Okay.
You just about got that in. You just about got that in. All
My
right.
hand's in the way.
Just keep your thumbs in there for a second. I'll give you a hand here. Okay. All right. Get those fingers out of the way now. Right now. All right. We got Don's put together. There.
Look how easy it was.
Look how easy it was, I told you. Now let's bend your tangs down too, Don, because we want to rewind this starter, all right?
Yes.
So we'll just bend these things like we showed you a minute ago. So not down too tight. You might keep in mind, folks, that on some of the older engines, you'll find little retainers here held in with screws.
Well,
And in that case, you can just loosen them off with a little nut driver, a little wrench, and just put them back on. But the newer ones all use these little bent metal things. You hold that steady there. Now this is a really greasy one you get to work on.
Yeah.
All right, is that free in there? All right, that's free, and that's what we want. How are you making out, Bruce?
not very good.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's leave yours for now.
Okay.
Okay? And we'll go on with Don's and mine. Now here's what we got to do next, folks. We've got to put a rope in there. We've all got a piece of rope here in front of us. Don, there's one for you.
Thank you.
Now, if you're looking for starter rope, don't go down to the hardware store and buy nylon or poly rope. Go and buy proper starter cord. This is a very fine nylon cord. It's made just for this job. You've got to burn the ends on it, all right? We burnt one end before the show started. Let's burn another end right now. Just any kind of a cattle or a match or lighter.
After you put it out.
Burn the end of that rope and twist it and put a little point on it. Now, this is always just a little painful, as you know when you've done this. All right, it always hurts a little. Just get a little point on that. And now we're going to tie just a little simple knot in that. It's a very simple little knot. I don't know what they call them. But this string, when you put a knot in it, it'll hold. Doesn't matter how greasy it gets or how old it'll hold. So just tie a simple knot like that. There's a rope for you, Bruce. You know, you don't have to steal Don's. Here, there's your own rope now.
No, he's helping me.
All right, just tie a simple knot. Now, here comes an interesting part of the job. This is where we're going to have strong thumbs. Pick up your starter housing, and you're going to see a little hole in it. In this case, in mine, it's right here. All right, Don, you can see it. You got a little hole in that spool, and that goes through for the rope to go outside. Now, what we're going to do is rewind this spool right now and then put the rope into it. Now, to rewind the spool, let's think about this again. Which way do we want it to pull? Okay? If we wind this way, you see what I'm doing? If I wind that way, it'll come back that way, and that's what we want. So now we're going to wind this up as tight as we can get it. All right? Put your thumb in the side, Don, and turn that thing like that, and then hold it with your thumb.
Which way? This way?
And then turn it and hold
My hands
it.
are so greasy, I can't turn it.
And turn it and hold it. And turn it and hold it. Oh, let
Yeah,
Bruce,
it's full
let
of
Bruce turn that for you. So just turn it and hold it. Turn it and hold it with your thumb. Now don't let go of that thumb because it's going to wrap you if you do. It won't kill you, but it'll hurt you.
Both of us.
So just turn it and hold. And turn it and hold. And turn and hold. And turn and hold. I feel like one of those aerobic shows. Turn and hold. And turn and hold.
How tight's this got to be?
As tight as you can get it, Bruce. Turn and hold. We've got to go all the way so that string has got all the slack taken out of it. Turn it and hold 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 it. And turn it and hold it.
How you're turning
We're going to go as far as we can. All right. I can't go any further with that thing right now. Now what we're going to do is back it off just a little bit to let the hole line up with this thing, which is where the rope comes out, right? So let's back it off very carefully.
Well, that's not turn it all the way.
Very carefully. All right. Now where the little hole is where the rope goes through is lined up with the place where the rope comes out. And we're going to take that rope with that end we burnt and we're going to feed it into that hole. Can we get a shot of that? This may be difficult to see, but I'm going to feed that rope into that hole. And I'm going to use this little O-ring pick
Let it go back.
to get it in there, all right? Now you can use a piece of wire or a nail or a screwdriver and just shove that rope in there
my
like
thumb's
that. And if you've got this lined up right, bingo, it's going to come out there. There's our rope coming out. So grab a hold of that and yank that all the way out. Hold on to it firmly out here.
Do you want the
And
other
now you can
end?
rest your thumb.
Oh, it's
If
down
it's like
there?
mine, it's tired by now. All right? Turn that starter over, hang on to the rope now because we've got tension on this. We've rewound our recoil starter. And there's our tension. Now we're just going to tie a little knot here, a temporary knot. Like that. Just to hold that. Do you guys need a hand here? Are you getting that?
Oh, no, we
We're
got four.
almost
You
there.
want me to feed that in there? These things have little differences, folks. These recoil starters have small differences, and sometimes the holes are in little different places, or little different shapes. There, hold on.
this is
Don't you let go now. Don't anybody let go. We're going to lose a finger here.
Whose?
Not mine. We don't have any insurance in this show, do we? It's coming out. It's coming out. There it is. Okay, hang on.
It's wrapped around my hand.
Okay, yeah, I got the spool. Okay, Don. See? There. Now hang on to that tight. Oh.
What?
Let that down there, and let's just tie a little knot off here.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We did
Let's
it.
put our handles on, and we're done. You guys have all got a handle. Just rip it apart
Oh,
like that.
He's
There'll be a little pin in that handle. Some of the newer style handles are plastic and they've got funny things. And you got the real old ones, you probably got a broom handle.
yeah, we can do
All
this.
right. Take the little handle,
Okay.
slide it down the rope
Is
like
my
that,
handle
and
original?
we'll tie that little pin on. Now, I'll show you one little trick. If you're working on a small engine, you want to know who worked on it before. If you've had a real pro work on it before, he'll tie this knot. Just watch closely. Go around once and around twice, like that. Can you do that, Don? And put it through, and you get the Briggs & Stratton original equipment knot.
Put it through where?
And that's what the knot looks like when it comes from the Briggs & Stratton factory. And if you see that knot, then you know the guy that worked on that thing knew what he was doing. All right, pull it up into the handle.
I think that's right.
Give our temporary knot a jerk. And there's our recoil starter. It's fixed and it works.
Nice.
Go around this way.
We're going to take a break now. I'm going to show Don how to tie this knot. And when we come back, I'll show you one other little preventive maintenance trick about the recoil start on your engine. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Our starters work, don't they?
Yes.
Of course they did. Look at that. Mine works, Don's works, Bruce's works. All right, we'll be able to get this stuff started. One more thing I wanted to show you, instead of giving you one more little tip. Sometimes in a recoil starter in a small engine, you'll get a real high-pitched sound when your engine's running. It's kind of a dry squeal, kind of ah, or something like that, you know, but a real terrible sound. That's caused by this little component right here. This is a little one-way clutch, and this sits in underneath, holds your flywheel on your engine. And what this does is actually, this piece here spins at about 3,600 RPM. When you pull the handle on your starter, it locks up and starts your engine, and then after that it spins. If this gets dry inside, it'll cause a real high-sounding, terrible noise. And all you've got to do to cure that is to oil it. And just shoot some oil right down there. There's a little hole in the top of there. If you shoot some oil in there about once a year, all right, you can keep that from causing any problem. That's our show for today. I want to thank Don. Did you learn something, Don?
Yes, I learned how to rebuild a recoil starter thingy.
Well, good. I enjoyed having you here. And Bruce, can you do this now for yourself?
I think I'll be able to there,
With a
Bob.
little help, you know where to find me anyway.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you guys very much for joining me today. I appreciated having you here. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Mechanic at Large.